Ming Liu here. I'm leading the AI engineering team at WEX, try to really build out the machine learning tool, but also platforms to enable the business growth. We actually have a big plan for growing the business. So, and also the board and our CEO fully recognize AI is going to be one of the important tools to enable the growth. So we're actually leading the team, building that lot of new applications enable the business. And then a little bit about the company. We actually been around for quite a while, over 40 plus years. And even as a public company, we are being listed as a public company since 2005. So we've been around for quite a while. And also size-wise, we are decent size. We have a 6,500 employee around the globe. We're actually in 15 countries. In terms of revenue, we're about like a 2.6 billion annual revenue. And then over the years, we actually acquired a lot of our business along the way. So on the hindsight, we have three major business. The first one, still the biggest one, is that fleet management. Even though the name is a fleet management, but there are a lot of payment technology we're building in the solutions. So as a company, we actually have a very much DNA of a payment tech. And then the second line of business basically is what we call corporate payment services. It's also a payment play. Right? That's the middle pillars. And then most recent acquisition is actually Benefit. Because we have the financial technology, we actually issued debit card to power FSA, power HSA for all the employers. So we became the benefit platform for a lot of big employers. So those are the three major line of business. And there are a lot of opportunity to apply AI and machine learning for. All right, what kind of business problem we try to solve here, right? So in today, this actually, entire talk is actually part of that. We built our own a chatbot leveraging GAI along the way, but also in building that chatbot applications, we actually see a lot of challenges to build universal chatbot or universal person assist, go beyond chat. And a lot of the things here is actually thought process to validate our plan, blueprint, to build out more universal personal assist, go beyond chat. We also have some early version of important components. So what is the business problem in the universal personal assist trying to solve? Right? In today's world, we have most of companies have mobile app, have a web app, maybe have even multiple mobile apps, right? So what's the typical experiences so far? We'll argue that oftentimes it's a disjointed. We literally at WEX scenario, we have people calling us in call centers and hand over to an in-app. We're losing the context. We ask people to repeat themselves, right? That's disjoint, that's inconsistent. And also user has to repeat themselves multiple times. In some cases, even 3 times in one call, right? And then also we have built so many features in modern mobile apps, modern web apps, to the point that it's almost impossible to discover all the features available in the app. So it's difficult to navigate. So the ideal solution we want to build is really addressing those kind of concerns, all those kind of pain points. So first of all, we want to have a more holistic, orchestrated or planned experiences for the users so that they do not need to repeat themselves. They will feel like they got recognized. We know him, we know her, we know the users, right? The best call center experience, quote our SVP Zijian mentioned that when people pick up phone, call us, it's already a failure in the product experiences, right? So the best call center is no call center. So we want to be proactive. We want to really monitor, anticipate users' needs by intervening proactively. And also we want to really make the app intuitive and then really easy to finish the task they want to finish, right? They want to achieve. People have busy life. They do not want to spending 10, 20 minutes just adding a newborn babies. Cool. And then how do we really build out that, right? And what's the benefit of having that coherent AI-powered experiences? We'll argue that, first of all, you will have really better user experiences, right? That actually give you more like a recognition in the marketplace. And through the word of mouth, you actually get more and more market share, hopefully, right? But also definitely boost the productivity for our users. Users do not spend long hours to figure out a tiny task. And also drive business value because users are happy, so the business will going to thrive. And domain transfer, by building a solution easy to transfer to other applications, is such a must-have. You do not want to spend a quarter building a chatbot for one channel and spend another quarter building a chatbot just for the different channels or different domains. All right, let's look at the key component the solution has to have, right? At least that's our vision. Like I said, most of the item here is actually our thought process. We did build a lot of early version of a component in the system of, in the app project of building the chatbot. So we really need to understand user better. So there has to be some kind of component to fully understand users. Right? Understand user not only right now, but also understand historical interaction from the users. Right? Understand the user profile. Right? That's the user part. But in order to really serve user well, we also need to understand our business logic behind the backend, behind the APIs, behind some kind of like a curated like a Google spreadsheets knowledge base. And then really have an agentic framework to connect all the pieces together. So you have like a really holistic, optimizing a planned like a user experience across all touch points of users, no matter user calling you from a call center numbers, or user going to the website, log into the website, or user actually pick up the phone, actually open the mobile apps. And then also continuous improvement loop, like user human in the loop, or we call smear in the loop, subject matter expert in the loop is must to have. You cannot, without that continuous feedback loop to improve the scalable solutions. And really how to understand users, right? Again, we split into historical and then real-time user intent. Historically, we actually, so again, this is our like a thought process. How can we leveraging that very famous like predict next token, right? Literally transformer is actually using that predict next token to train the transformer. The magic here is actually a vast amount of data we can support. So that's also call out some of the like challenges in building this solution, which is the data gap. But nevertheless, assuming you have all the historical interaction with the users, whether it's through like a chat or through like a call center or through like in-apps, if you can formalize them into some kind of a sequence of events or action events, you can actually leveraging that predict next actions as a main objective to train the embeddings so that you can encode the user historical interaction, entire histories, from onboarding the user all the way to the current maybe like a -1 days. So that's our high-level thought process, leveraging predicting next tokens. That's essentially the objective, to train a deep learning transformer-like models and to embed all the historical interaction with the users. But for real times, how do you understand? How do you try to understand what the user want to achieve as of now, at the current moment? Right? We're actually using the user intent to define that that's the real-time user want to achieve through whatever channel they are. Right? They can call us on call center, or they opens a chatbot and ask questions. Whatever like a channel they are, we're trying to predict that real-time intent for the users, and then in this case, the extraction agent here is trying to really extract most important piece of information, intent, but also entities. Entities are also very important. I want to add a newborn boy. Right there, you actually have intent, adding a new dependent, but also you can extract some of the gender information about the newborn baby, right? So entities also very critical because you want to do the tool calling. Without entity, you are not going to have a successful tool calling flow. And then follow-up agents are also very important because not always you get the clear understanding about the user intent. Having some kind of a proactive follow-up questions or follow-up like even action plans to collect more confirmation from the users and then narrow down the user intent is also must have. We saw a huge advantage adding this to that chatbot flow. And then with that understanding of the users, how can we encode the entire business logics, the backend, the workflow, right? All the record deduple logics into that the knowledge base. Right? That's really the construct of a knowledge base. Without that, there's no way you can have a more scalable or more high accurate precision, like a chatbot or like a personal assist experience for the users. So we break down into 4 different categories of knowledges. One is actually just generic domain knowledges. For example, what is HSA, right? That could be a static answers you store in some of the RAG DBs. RAG stands for retrieval augmented generations. And domain-specific workflows, that actually will be company-specific, right? WEX have its own workflow, even have its own workflow for different line of businesses, but also targeted knowledge, which is oftentimes, for example, people asking, is acupuncture covered by my medical plan or not, right? That's actually can be solved by retrieval that plan information the user enroll into and then extract that plan detail information to understand is acupuncture that service indeed covered or not covered. So you have to provide more like a personalized solution for that. And then application, like I said, modern mobile apps, web app, easily have hundreds of features. How can you really make that navigation a piece of cake for the users? Right? Those are the 4 main categories of knowledges. And to really implement that, to really make that to live or to build out into solutions or systems, we propose that entity attribute graph will be the main construct to implement the knowledge base. And in that entity graph, you have different important entities, right? Users, plans, events, workflow, API, so on and so forth. And essentially, the entity graph became a state management tool for us. It's dynamic. It's actually keep up to date. Maybe not up to the a real-time moment, but at least up maybe T-1 days. And relationship between entities is super informative, and that's really the key. Setting that entity graph and then let the connection really encode the information, rich information for the solutions. And then again, mining on the graph is going to be the key unlock of values. It is easy to build demos using large model, using OpenAI, those kind of tools, but it is difficult to put that into production. The scalabilities, the accuracies, the precisions, this actually coming from mining on the graph. That's going to be a huge value unlock. And then essentially, you can, if you think about the graph, and then also you encode the entire user pathway or journeys on the graph, it became a special language. You can literally apply a small language models to ensure high precision solutions. And again, after that, you encode entire information into the knowledge base. You are going to using agentic framework to hierarchize, like building the hierarchy and building abstractions to support, to fit the different typical workflows, right? You want to have some memory, right? Remember, the graph is actually providing the state. The memory and then context agent is basically the real-time version of that, right? It access the graph and then provide that information in a real-time basis. Extraction agent, again, extract user intent and the entities important to that user, right? To understand users want to achieve as of now. And routing, planning, reasoning agent really take all the input, take the historical knowledge about the users, and take the knowledge graph, decide what is the best channels and what is the action plan, right? Both are quite important. Sometimes maybe email is actually the best channel to reach out to users. And orchestration agent is actually according to the plans, right? You could have a multiple plan together simultaneously. You can have some real-time plan to display some information to the user, but also you want to trigger some kind of asynchronous workflows to set a reminder, set notifications for the users. So orchestration agents is actually here to make sure you have a smooth arrangement, right? Organizing all the workflows. And then essentially the detailed worker agent to cover narrowly focused domain the RAG answer can be a domain. The personalized answer can be another like agent, worker agent, so on and so forth. Okay. With all this construct, right? Because we want to build high precision, high accurate, like a person assist. So how can we fight the hallucination of large models? Grounding, right? That's very typical populate technique using that like a pre-curated answers or pre-curated knowledges to ground that large model generation. That's very popular using the RAG. But also, we will argue that for a lot of use cases, especially for WEX type of a narrow focus use case, we can use a predefined template. The principle here is reduce the freedom of large number models can do here, right? We provide a template and only allow large number model to retrieve the data element and place that into that template. That's one way to really shrink the freedom of a large number model and then reduce the hallucinations. But also using confidence scorings to allow user confirmations, right? When there's a low confidence, leveraging that similar concept, follow up like agent type of ideas. Whenever we are in doubt, we try to ask a confirmation from the users, whether it's explicit or implicitly. And then leveraging offline times evaluations. A lot of like a larger model, like a prompt or like a template, we can validate that using the offline data, using the historical data, and then really measure the accuracies. And human in the loop, right? Like I said, there are two types of human in the loop. One is actually smear, subject matter expert in the loop. They provide labels to provide the ground truth. But also, end user can be in the loop, provide implicit like signal to the system. Like if I notice that users are not following the guidance at all, that's actually indication of a low quality response. If the user follow the guidance on the high like a rate, then that's an indication of you might have a good quality of a response generated. And essentially, with all these safeguards, we want to really build high precision. Really, that's the key, differentiate demo and then productions, high precision, scalable solutions. And then to really make the system like evolve itself, right? We are using active learnings. Maybe the formatting is not ideal, the cut off that. But basically, we're using active learnings, taking the input from smears, taking that the mining process we are mentioning about mining on the user journeys. Again, leveraging both, leveraging the label we can generate by smears, but leveraging that the user behavior on the site. That's going to give you the best, like both world. The label will be small scale, and then the other one is actually you are not going to have explicit labels. So combining both, active learning, make the system evolve better and better, but also structure that solution in such a way that the code and logic are separate from like knowledge curations. With that designs, you will have a much easier way to transfer that to different domains. Again, domain adaptation is going to be a must-have. You do not want to build once for one quarter and then build another like domains for another quarter, right? You want to build once and easily like extend to different domain and different channels. With that, I think that's it. Yes?
The active learning, how do you do the active learning? Is it in real time?
No, it's not in real time. It's actually batch, offline.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, so you have SMEs look at it?
Yes.
And implement it in a RAG?
So in different domains, the smear labels will be used differently. For example, we actually literally have the claim AI using smears labels to monitor the solutions, like accuracy, but also ingest that labels to discover a new, like basically a new way of handling those kind of claims, right? So the label will be super important to ingest into the system, but is that label going to be using for particular? It really depends on applications. The label will be used differently for different applications.
And then one more question.
Yes.
Confidence scoring. How do you do the confidence scoring?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the example of a claim AI, those kind of applications, you can actually compare some kind of a dummy model, like an OCR output, that give you some kind of confidence about the text accuracies. You're leveraging that as a confidence proxy for the value you extract after understanding using large model, using large model to parsing that data, right? You can refer back to the OCR, like a confidence as confidence. But in general, you need to design a solution that confidence will be blended in, or maybe like a first-level citizens when you design the solutions. Some large model prompt, you can ask the confidence from the large model itself. And then the other typical technique is actually using multiple large models to generate the same, cross-reference between the different large models in the way that you can generate higher confidence is that they all match together. Yes, Jite.
So curious, so in your framework, you separated the orchestration from the planning.
Yes, yeah.
Curious why you did that, and also how you handle user interrupts, say, during say a workflow execution, because I would assume that is going to go to the routing agent for the planning.
There's a feedback loop for sure. From the worker, you have to go back to that reasoning and then plannings, because worker can fail. Right? That's why there is a feedback loop. The way we actually building this hierarchy is actually orchestration itself is actually still quite unique comparing to reasoning and the plannings. Reasoning planning is literally pick the right channel and then pick the right action sequences to resolve the user request. But orchestration is really make sure all the worker node are ramp up accordingly, and then especially you want to have synchronized, asynchronized flow, be more streamlined together. So having some kind of a abstract layer for the orchestration part might not be a bad design.
What does that do to user experience? If you have this nice set of events operating,
Yeah.
does that affect latency?
Yeah, that's a great question. Latency, right? You have such a hierarchies. How do you guarantee that latency, that user are not waiting 20 seconds for some kind of response? There are a few techniques we can solve that. So first of all, in the larger model itself, you actually have the streaming models, which is it will not wait until the final token generating. Right? They can actually, as the first token generate, they will already streaming back to the result. So you do that, you will actually give the response to the user sooner. So they actually seeing that prompt being the response being generated on the fly, actually reduce the anxieties. That's one thing. But also remember we have that RAG, a retrieval augmented generations. I would actually envision that 80% of that user request are not going to be a unique new request. So leveraging those kind of curated or stored in the cache, you actually can shortcut a lot of large model reasonings. So it will end up a question matched to the RAG and then bound to the worker node and then retrieve that final result. Yes? Yeah, that's a great question. So.
I'm sorry, Ming, could you repeat it?
No,
I'm not sure everybody heard it.
Yeah, I was just curious what he trains the small model on specifically versus leveraging some of the larger reasoning models.
Yeah, like I stated in the beginning of the talk, a lot of that still thought process. We built a chatbot, we built a lot of our components as well. But for that particular small language modeling, we haven't built that the instance yet. But the thought process is, if you think about that entire workflow, right? You are, let's say, adding a dependent is actually one of the important workflow for our benefit verticals. And there are a few more. I will argue that probably less than 100 unique workflow in that benefit backend. If you condition on that, right? If you imagine there are sequences, user coming in input questions, and then the backend API call is actually calling 1, 2, 3 all the way to 100. That's literally a special language sentences. And if you can model that using small language models, that reduce the hallucination a lot. And probably that should be the right way to building those kind of narrowly focused workflow automation. Cool. Yes.
Some customer questions probably require like dynamic adjustments off of set workflows that might be in the entity graph. How does this system account for those adjustments that are needed so it doesn't go through a robotic flow every time any questions asked by a customer?
Yeah. We actually encountered that challenges with the chatbot project as well. So we have a fallback logic, so which we dynamically generate the action plan on the fly. But the shortcome or the cons is actually how do we actually guarantee the precision of that action on the fly stuff. That's why I think asking confirmations when the confidence of that plan is actually low, ask confirmation on the critical steps is actually must have. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult to guarantee precision for those kind of dynamic generated action plan.
Okay, so you anchor on user feedback then?
Yes.
Got it.
In this, literally anchored on the confirmation. I have to confirm with you. Okay, are you okay with I operating in such a way?
That makes sense. And then second question was on the continuous learning aspect. I know that you mentioned like SMEs have to look at that data before it's ever fed back into the learning loop of the models. I guess how far out do you see a capability for automated feedback judgment before it's fed into a model, before it's fed into the model, so that humans don't have to, but instead a model can decide whether feedback is worth feeding back in?
In the ideal state, we want to have that implicit end user feedback to help the system evolve, because label generation still be expensive. But in the short run, I actually see a coexist of both flows.
And Ming, apologies took me a minute to get here. Sorry for being late. We've got about 2 minutes left, and I don't know if you covered it at the beginning, but what kind of usage are you seeing?
Usage,
yes, within WEX of this agent.
a lot of it, like I said, is a thought process. But for the chatbot, we actually launched to all about 120 partners. The chatbot in a project.
Gotcha. And so 120 end users using it.
120 partners. The benefit of WEX is actually our customer. Our direct customer is actually employers.
Yes.
We launched that to those 110 employers. So their employee will actually leveraging that chatbot capability in the app.
And within those 120 employers, that's
total end users.
end users. And do you have any visibility into how many of their employees are then using it?
I need to get back to you on that. The exact number of users. I think it's millions.
It's millions. That's fantastic. Well done. Any last question? Ming, thank you so much.
Thank you all.